Okay, hello everyone. Everyone? Hello? Hello? There it is. All right. Aaron, let me know when I can start. I'm good? Okay, welcome everyone. This is the best part of our meeting tonight when we get to do these recognitions. Always a great thing. The second most favorite thing, I think, is when we hear from our superintendent when we reconvene, but this is better. All right, so we are in session. I'd ask you all to please stand for a moment of silence. If you join me in the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I need to have a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please. Motion? Lisa, second? Adam? Any comments or questions about tonight's agenda? See none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you, board members. Now we begin our presentations, recognitions. Reading of the emergency evacuation procedure. In case of an emergency, would everyone please follow the exit signs to the outside of the building? Please stay completely clear of the building to provide space for emergency vehicles. Thank you for that. I also am forgetting to do this, but I got it covered here. Persons wishing to address the board must sign up prior to the start of the public participation. Speakers must register on the form provided by the district at the entrance of the boardroom to maintain a first-come, first-served process. For the purposes of following up with speakers, the speakers must provide their name, address, telephone number, and/or email address. To limit comments to matters which may be properly discussed during public participation, the speakers will provide the topics. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. You'll see that sign up in the boardroom when we reconvene there. All right, now let's do the fun stuff. All right, we're going to start with the high school musical, Spam-A-Lot, which was fun. Jeremy Hawkinson.
If I could have actors, musicians, tech crew members come on up. Close to 100 kids were involved in our production of Monty Python's Spam-A-Lot School Edition this year. We had a great time putting it together, and the end result was a really wonderful production. We can make two lines up here. Maybe backline could sit on the stage. How about that? This is a very special, very talented group of young theater practitioners. I know you've all gotten a lot of great feedback, and it's certainly well-deserved. Special thanks to our seniors, Freaky Friday, Titanic, I'm getting a little emotional, Tippett, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Spam-A-Lot. It was quite a run. We just got our Stars of Tomorrow reports back. Stars of Tomorrow, if you're not aware of it, is a sort of the high school Tony Awards. And it's coming up May 9th. And we received outstanding marks across the board. So that's the best we've gotten in several years. So I'd like to just share a few of them quickly because I think they're poignant for the cast, but also for you folks. Judges give these feedback. There were so many absolutely laugh-out-loud scenes that had the community laughing out loud. Your audience clearly enjoyed it, was engaged, entertained, and very enthusiastic. There was a great energy in the building. You made the entire experience enjoyable for everyone in attendance. Anyone in the Victor community that didn't go see the show truly missed out on a wonderful night. Coming to a performance at Victor High School was always such a positive experience. You embody what the art should be. an experience to escape, enjoy the entertainment, and perhaps get sent home with a message to carry with us. Each year, you consistently help us to look on the bright side of life. We know this isn't always easy to do, and we congratulate you. So, wise words indeed. And these kids made it happen. But it also takes a village. Special thanks to our production team, Miss Mellema, Mrs. Brewer, Mrs. Fetzner, Mr. Denner, Mr. Wolf, Mr. Isaacs, Mrs. Sentif, Mr. Coughlin, Mrs. Berkmeyer, Miss Piscani, Mr. Main, Mrs. Riley. Such an amazing team. Thank you, thank you. Thanks to Mr. Siesto for his continued support to the board. Dr. Terranova, thank you for your cameo as the voice of God in this production. And to Kim, Kate, and Liz for organizing. Thank you all without Maureen this year. You did it. Thanks, everybody. Wish us luck at Stars of Tomorrow, and we'll see you next year. Thanks. All right, let's get a quick photo.
Do you want some people to go on the floor? Guys, do you guys want to go on the floor? We need like 3 rows. No, we're gonna go like shoulder in.
Everybody's doing a wide shot. Get a wide shot. We're doing those.
Like wait on the floor.
Yeah, I'm not that tall, but I got it. All right, that was fun. Spam-A-Lot, I saw it. I was sorry I didn't get to sit in D101, Doy. That would have been fun. All right, next up is Winter Guard, Julia Salon.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Julia. I'm the director of this program for the past 2 years, and I'm really happy to kind of share a little bit about our season this year and then what these kids have accomplished in a very short amount of time. So if you've seen our show, I'm happy you were able to. It was a very special show. It was called Fragments of Forever. It was about their childhood. Very personalized. We had pictures of the seniors on the floor. Each had their own personal flag at the end. So it was very personal to us. What we didn't know is how much they would achieve in this season. We knew they were going to do fantastic, but to see the growth and achievements this year has been fantastic. They had an undefeated local season, and then they won their state championship title, and they also won their regional championship out in Salem, Massachusetts, which is very similar to sectionals out here. They also had the opportunity to go to World Championships in Dayton, Ohio, where they finished in the top 35 of 132 color guards in the United States. Which is really big. That's really hard to do when you have that many guards in a very tough class. When that is anywhere in the United States, also out of the country, Canada, New Zealand, a bunch of other areas. They also are listed in the top 10 most watched guards to watch at Dayton, which is also a big accomplishment. It's kind of like their, I guess, their magazine for our sport, which is really big. And on top of that, one of our seniors, Maya LaBarge, was one of 9 scholarship winners out of hundreds that apply each year through WGI championships, which was really special. So our season is from November to April, and they have achieved a ton in this short amount of time. And to say as an alumni and a director, I'm very proud as an understatement. I do have to say special shout out to the parents. because without them, we would not be traveling to all these places. We wouldn't have the food. We wouldn't have anything. So without them, we appreciate you. And I just really want to take a moment to congratulate them on the incredible season that they've had. So. That was it. I think we're doing a picture. Okay. Do you want to go there? Do I have to go up? No, you don't have to. Okay. You can just go below. Oh, am I in it? Oh, okay.
Okay, a good suggestion by Dr. Parks, just leave it here, right? So, for our athletics recognitions, I'm going to ask Dewey Weimer to come up and present.
Look, it's Vipe.
Oh, it's Vipe?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Vipe. Mark Goen, please. Sorry about that.
No worries. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Gauman, and I am proud to be the director of the Victor Indoor Percussion Ensemble and the Victor Marching Blue Devils. I've never seen this many people at a board meeting, so there's a lot of recognition going on this evening. So thank you to the board for the invitation, and congratulations to everyone who is being honored this evening on your years and shows and season's success. Especially congratulations to Winterguard. Very proud of you. This was a tremendous season for Vipe. We lost a great and a very large senior class last year, and 50% of this group is new this year. And we exist. There are three divisions in our activity. There is A class, there is open class, and there's world class. There's only about 3 dozen world-class groups in the country, high school world-class groups, and we currently are the only open-class group in New York State. So that is something that we are very, very proud of, and are happy to get the shiny medal for open class. And our show this year was called The Rising, and it was a story of the phoenix rising from the ashes, which was kind of special because we sort of felt like a phoenix rising from the ashes, sort of starting from scratch this season and accomplishing so much. So this was the 20th season for Vipe, and I've sort of been celebrating that a little bit, and going through and talking to our old director, talking to old staff members, and just some statistics from 20 years is in 20 seasons we have 11 gold medals for New York State. And I didn't realize until I was putting all this together that only twice in 20 seasons has this group finished has finished lower than second place. So pretty remarkable consistency, and we are proud to carry on the tradition and the legacy of this group. Vipe.
Oh, yeah. You can do whatever you want with the drum. Why don't you,
Just don't drop it.
why don't you, kind of show it like this? In your hands?
Oh, yeah, you could pop on it underneath.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
See me almost fall up those stairs.
You got that okay, Will? You got it. Is that good? Yeah. I'm not even done. You're awesome. Give me a second. They can see that. Do you see it?
Everybody smile.
Camera. Sweet.
Okay, didn't want to miss that. Seeing the drum reminds me of what's the best present you can get? Broken drums, you can't beat them. Sorry, I embarrass my grandchildren with these things all the time. All right, now for the athletics recognitions, Dewey Weimer.
Thank you, Mr. DeLucia, Board of Ed, Dr. Terranova, Kate, Kim, friends, coaches, student athletes for this ceremony. My name is Dewey Weimer. I serve to champion courage, respect, and resilience to empower others, and I'm your Director of Health, Physical Education, and Athletics. I first want to congratulate the musical, Winter Garden Vipe. It's so cool to see so many of you excel outside of athletics, because I see a lot of athletes in there as well. Congratulations. Before we celebrate, yes, thank you. Before we celebrate our incredible student athletes and coaches, we're thrilled to share some exciting news. This spring season, we set a new record with 789 students showing interest. This is the highest number we've ever seen since tracking participation in spring sports. Our athletic programs continue to grow year after year thanks to the amazing support of our Board of Education and their commitment to creating more opportunities for our students. This year alone, we had an outstanding 2,220 registrations, with 1,111 students officially rostered on Victor Central educationally based athletic teams. Again, that's a record. 657 of them participated in more than one season, which is something we really enjoy to see. In addition, I want to mention how proud we are of our coaching staff's continuous improvement. They continue to connect our student athletes to transformational coaches. They are focused on developing a culture of belonging and enhancing the human growth and character of our student athletes. So I just wanted to make sure I was able to thank them for that. I truly believe you're going to see and hear tonight the results of all this hard work. I would first like to bring up the varsity ice hockey team, the Section 5 champions, Coach Ferrari and his squad.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Ferrari, and this is my, I think, 23rd or 24th year here in Victor, and as a community member, it's just great to see the continued success. We live in a special place. Not only work at a special school and our children go to a special spot, but we live in a special community as well. So thanks to the Board of Education for taking the time and extending your meeting here to recognize all the great student athletes. Dr. Terranova, thanks so much for your continued support and how you find the time to be able to do and attend so many different events that go on. It means a lot. It's truly appreciated by our family. Congrats to everybody else. Congrats to all the musical, the Vipe Winter Guard, and all the other athletes that are here. And ironically, I've been here a little bit, the time continues to move, and Julia was actually a student of mine. This is the first time that I've been up here that I'm getting older. Time is not slowing down. I want to also thank our Dewey Weimer and Georgia Turner, our athletic department. They support us a ton, and a lot of these boys that are up here, they're in our office probably more times than they should be. But they're in there because I think of the connection that they have with the athletic department and how much support that our athletic department provides for them. We have to thank our families as well, not just the hockey families, but all our families. And we ask a lot of our student athletes, but more importantly, in turns, that asks a lot of our families and parents as well that support the message. And I'm so proud of our hockey families and our hockey community for always supporting the message that we as coaches kind of provide on a daily basis and help mold these young men into successful citizens. I have to thank the boys as well. They have, you know, we ask a ton of them throughout the season, throughout the preseason. If anyone knows, ice hockey is maybe an hour practice for us is actually 3 hours by the time we get to the rink, get all our gear on and off, and, you know, get back to school here. And they do a tremendous job. I'm so proud of them, their commitment level. They finished the season with a 17-6-1 record, just tremendous success. And I think if you followed hockey at all this year, and when you get into sectionals, and it's hockey is one of those sports that could go either way at any time. And these group of young men, when the sectional week started for practices, I said it in one of the interviews, and maybe I wish I had taken it back, but then I was like, no, I think it's the right thing to say. I said I would put this group of men up against anybody else in the state from their practice habits and how they prepared. And they truly turned every rock over. They crossed every T, dotted every I, and, you know, they were able to hoist the sectional block and win sectionals. So proud of them. I think what really makes this team really special is the senior leadership. Is we had 12 seniors, which is the most that we've ever had in my career. And the senior leadership was so good is that they truly focused on celebrating the successes of each other, and it was more important than the celebration of successes for themselves. And they truly care about the we before me, and as a result is they were able to accomplish goals that maybe they didn't think they were able to do at the beginning of the season. So truly proud of these guys, and especially that senior group, and they're going to be so successful, you know, down the road in the next chapter of their life. But this group put together quite a season, one to remember for sure, and you know, excited for the next chapter of their lives. And I'm just so proud of them and the relationship they have with each other. Boys, congratulations on a great year.
Coach Ferrari shouldn't sell himself short. He's also our assistant athletic director and does a lot of work in our office. So congratulations, all of you. We're going to actually combine the next two recognitions, the individual Section 5 indoor champions and our team champions. So I would like to ask head coach Bob Goodell and his A1 girls championship team and our individual champions to please come down.
All right, well, thank you everybody for having us. I'd like to thank the Board of Education for taking the time out of the meetings to recognize our athletes. That this is a special occasion for these young athletes to be here. And like Coach Ferrari said, we are in a special community and a special place. I've been coaching here at Victor for 4 seasons now, working for 2. And I said last spring, it's a great feeling to come to work every day and you get to hear the stories, not only from the athletes I coach, but for all the athletes in the building and sharing an office with Mike and Sean Rucker. You get to hear what their journeys look like, and it's just a really special time to be a Victor resident, Victor student, athlete, and especially a Victor coach. I'd also like to thank Dr. Terranova. I know he's up in the back there. He's actually a track fan, former track coach. We appreciate, Tim, when you're at the meets, you turn around, you're there asking questions, talking to the athletes. It does mean a lot to our kids to feel that connection with you, and likewise myself and the coaching staff having you there. So thank you, the time you put into coming to our sectional meets and our county championships. Dewey, Mike, Georgia, the athletic office, outstanding job this year, again, supporting our program. Those of you that have followed the track program the last few years, we've probably tripled in size in the last 3 to 4 years, and it does take additional supports to support our program and give the athletes what they need. And you guys have been there every step of the way, helping us through this this outstanding growth. To my coaching staff, we have Jen Parks here. Couldn't do without you. Jerry Odell, Ryan Horst, Ryan Ellis couldn't be here tonight. I have one of the best coaching staffs I've ever worked with in my 24 years of coaching. They're great to the kids. The kids love working with them. It just makes a family atmosphere and a great place to be every day for these kids. So thank you to them. Thank you to the families in our program. It is a long, grueling season. The meets, they're a lot of fun, but they take time to sit and they're there every step of the way supporting your athletes. Thank you for the supports you've given us as well as our program is growing, the contributions that our families have made to make sure our athletes don't go without. So that is much appreciated. So now the team individually, a couple shout outs I'd like to give. They're not here. Andrew Goodell and Dre Yomis were our 2 boy individual champions. Andrew was the 55-meter hurdle champion. Dre was the shot put champion. Dre also went on to compete at the state meet this year in the shot put, so they both had outstanding seasons as senior athletes. Our 3rd individual champion was Emma Goodell. She was a champion in the 55-meter hurdles and the high jump at sectionals. And another individual shout out, and also Emma competed at the state meet. And finally, another individual I'd like to recognize is Ellis McElhenney. She represented Victor at the state meet as well. So congratulations to those individuals. On a team level, it was an outstanding season. And for me, this was a special one as I sit back and I reflect on this team compared to other teams I've coached in the past. And I was talking to Mr. Weimer the other day, and I said, I've been a part of 19 team sectional champions, and you remember things about each group. But for this one, for the seniors, I got here 4 years ago, and we've been on the journey together all 4 years. So I felt a connection to them, seeing it through for them, and seeing the rebuild and the rise of our program. And so that was one thing. And for another thing, on a personal level, as a coach and a dad, now I have two athletes in this program. It was a special night for me. Both my kids competing, both winning sectional titles, and ironically in the same events. It was just a unique night for me as a parent and a coach to be able to share that with them. And I thank the district for that opportunity every season I get to spend time here with my own kids. On a team aspect, I couldn't be more proud of the girls, the work they've put in. We now have 145 athletes in the indoor program. They come to work every day. 28 of the young ladies qualified for the sectionals. And I think something I'm proud of, you look at the 17 events that we were there competing in, and we scored in 15 out of 17, so it wasn't any one athlete carrying the load. It was a complete team contribution, and that's something we as a coaching staff can be proud of, walking away from saying, hey, all of our kids came together and contributed to this title, and that's something as a group you should be very proud of. It's not often that happens in our sports, so thank you, ladies. Very proud of that. Finally, I think what's exciting for this group, yes, we graduate some outstanding individuals, but the core of this group is in that freshman, sophomore range. We have a great base to build from, and I look forward to what this team is going to do over the next few years. So thank you again for the community for recognizing this group. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Our final recognition tonight is our wrestling Class A1 and Section 5 champion at 285 pounds, Mason Naple. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. However, our wrestling head coach, Craig Caper, who is also recently recognized as Section 5 Wrestling Officials Coach of the Year, which is a high honor in the coaching community. Coach Caper, come on up.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say a few quick thank yous. Dr. T, Board of Ed, Mr. Weimer, Mr. Ferrari, Georgia back at the office, and to all of my assistant coaches. It was another great wrestling season. We had a great team. They did a lot, but here tonight to recognize Mason and going last. All the great things that have been said about the community, I can shorten my speech and just say ditto. So we'll keep it at that. But I want to just talk briefly about Mason Naple. Mason wrestled in the 285-pound weight class. That was the limit. He weighed about 240. He's a big boy. His father's here tonight, and he's a very large man as well. But he's a heck of an athlete. He's a three-sport athlete, playing football, and then I believe he's throwing the shot put this spring as well. And he's also a scholar athlete. He does outstanding in the classroom, and is just a great young man. This year, he was also named our most improved wrestler at our banquet. Last year, he finished 5th in the class, and then which qualified him for the super sectionals, and he took 5th at the supers last year. That was a state qualifier. This year he won both of those tournaments, so there was a lot of improvement there. But what we talked about as well was his improvement within the season. Our first tournament this year was the Byron Burgeon tournament, and it's a fairly big tournament, but one that we tend to do pretty well at. But his weight class had quite a few seasoned kids in it, and he took 5th place at that tournament. But by season's end, after winning the state qualifier, he placed 7th in the state, which is just amazing improvement, not only from year to year, but just within season. And I got to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff for that as well, and Mason's unrelenting hard work. He is an individual that, as a coach, you want multiple kids like that, not just because he's so athletic, but because he just listens to everything that you say, and he acts upon it, which is just outstanding. And just one last thing to just kind of sum up Mason. We're at the state tournament. I had a few young coaches this year. It was their first year with the team, and after Mason had already made All-State, it was in the medal round, and it was the last match of the tournament for Mason. It was the 7th and 8th place match. And so I got one of our younger guys out of the stands that worked with Mason quite a bit during the year to have him take my spot in the corner. So long story short, Mason goes out there. He wins big. Big smile, but not a huge celebration out of Mason. And he walked right over to Coach Marslov and said, "Is this your first time coaching in the state tournament?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Well, congratulations." And that's just kind of who Mason is. Wonderful young man, very proud of what he accomplished. And to all of you tonight here being recognized, congratulations to all of you as well. Thank you.
Okay, there you have it. Congratulations to all these talented people, and one last chance to raise the roof for all of them. All right, we're going to pause here for a few minutes to reconvene in the boardroom, and superintendent is up next. You don't want to miss it. Okay, we are reconvening. Welcome back. The next thing on our agenda would be the superintendent's update. Tim, you did not draw the crowds like we had in the other room.
I was disappointed. Thank you, Mr. DeLucia.
Yes.
Well, obviously, that was an amazing celebration, so big thank you to all our students and our performing arts programs, our amazing Winter Guard team, our amazing VIPE team, and certainly our athletic sectional champions, both individual and team, who were recognized a few minutes ago. Also want to give a shout out, because you're going to see them hopefully in May, to our robotics team who came out of nowhere and won the what's called the Buckeye Regional Championship, which is basically a huge regional robotics championship in the state of Ohio, and won the whole thing. And so that actually happened a few days ago, so we are going to honor them in May. But they are excellent, but they really that was an upset, and it's an amazing how they came together to do that. So big congratulations to our robotics team. Also want to shout out a few other things. Number one, Debbie Kruzkop, who received the Volunteer of the Year Award at our March Superintendent's Conference Day for her amazing work in our community, especially her work with the SPOT and volunteer efforts at the intermediate schools. So big thank you to Debbie for her volunteerism. I want to shout out to our substance abuse prevention counselor, Lindsay Snyder, and her facilitation of the presentation on substance use to parents on Monday night. Lindsay was an important addition to our staff about 2 years ago. As a substance abuse prevention counselor, she is amazing, and she is both doing preventative work with our younger students and our older students, but also individual work with kids who are struggling with substance abuse. And she put on a great program that was eye-opening to everyone who was there. We just have to figure out a way to get that out to more parents. It was a special focus on cannabis and THC, and it's scary, to be honest with you. So I really appreciate Lindsay's work and her work with Brian Siesto and the high school around that, too. Shout out to the Victor Teachers Association, who recently presented the Serenity House with a check for over $1,800. Thanks to the generous donations of the VCS teachers and staff, the Serenity House will have more funds to use for their outdoor renovation project that they're currently doing. It's an example of our VTA and the work that they give back to, the things they give back to our community. And last but certainly not least, I want to recognize our own superintendent student leadership group. They meet on a monthly basis with me, and Mrs. Dole is also a part of that. We average between 25 and 30 students between 8th and 12th grade that regularly meet. We got a couple board members, kids on the team, on this group as well. Recently, they split into smaller groups and chose topics that were most meaningful to them to try to make better, both in the community and in the school district. The topics included life after high school, scheduling and course offerings, safety and security, the creation of a student volunteer program, both for younger high school students and junior high students, and bathrooms and vaping. The students created actionable solutions that they will attempt to implement in the next few weeks, and I think it's an amazing example of the potential for student-driven leadership to come up with not just viable solutions, but solutions that adults don't necessarily come up with. And I have to give a huge thank you to Mr. Siesto. Unfortunately or fortunately, many of their solutions have to do with him and meeting with him and really working through some of the stuff. And he's such an accessible high school principal that, of course, he is doing that, and they have a ton of respect for him. But he's really embraced this, and he's basically a part of our group as well. So just big thank you to those students. Thanks to Brian and for his leadership. And that's my superintendent's update.
Thank you, Dr. Terranova. Item 5 is our public participation. Although the board's work is open to the public, this is not a meeting with the public. At this time, privilege of the floor is offered to those who have signed up to speak. I'll be happy to recognize those of you who wish to speak. When you approach the microphone, please identify yourself before presenting your thoughts. We'll limit it to 3 minutes for total time for this portion, and the overall limit is 30 minutes. Please note issues related to specific school district personnel or students must be brought to the attention of the superintendent of schools privately, as they are not discussable at this venue. Thank you. So we have signed up William Martz, please.
Hello, everybody. It was a great event and recognition before. That was a good job. So my name is William Martz. I'm a Victor resident, parent, alumni, and taxpayer. In the last few years, and especially before the budget votes, I hear the same justification for spending increases repeated to the residents of Victor and Farmington, that the VCS enrollment is growing and therefore justifies any increased staff and spending. And the phrase I hear a lot about town is, VCS has grown over the last 20 years, while the surrounding schools have seen, severe enrollment decline. And it's definitely a true statement. However, while the VCS K through 12 enrollment is higher than 20 years ago, it is less than it was 12 years ago. The whole truth is that VCS enrollment is slowly declining, not growing. So, to illustrate that, the enrollment topped out in 2015 for K through 12 at 4,334 students. And at that time, there were about 350 kids in a lot of the graduating classes. Currently, we're 191 students below that peak for the overall enrollment. And current graduating classes have been 340, down to 336 last year, and this year it'll be about 315 to 320, and per the latest data available on the state website. In grades 1 through 12, there are only 4 classes greater than 320 students, with 3 below 310 and 1 below 300. And these smaller class sizes mean that declining enrollment is locked in for the next decade, and that's before we have the decline in birth rates due to COVID and all that stuff that is yet to appear here. So if you'd like to look at the data, I have it if you'd like to see it. So understanding that enrollment is declining, I thought it was interesting that Superintendent Terranova's January 17th weekly message, he mentioned that the district has added over 100 staff positions over the last 4 years. And I think we just need to make sure that we're asking the question, is that kind of growth and continuous budget increases that we've seen, are they sustainable? Instead of competing in a spending race with Pittsford and the other schools, we need to make sure every dollar is justified and report back the outcome on a lot of these investments. Make sure we're focusing on wants and not needs. Things like core academic programs and English proficiency scores should be the focus. There's a lot going on, stagnant wages, an uncertain economic outlook in the world, huge federal debt, state deficits are constant, and the effects of inflation make it very difficult to justify unneeded spending increases. Asking for increases due to rising enrollment is an easy to understand narrative, but it's really not correct. And I think the residents of Victor and Farmington deserve to have accurate information about enrollment to make informed decisions when they vote for school budgets and school board members. So we all want our schools to succeed, but we must also ensure our district operates transparently and within its means. Thank you for all your efforts and for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we move on to item 6 on our agenda, acceptance of consent items 6A through G. I need a motion to accept these, please.
Lisa?
Lisa, second. Adam. Any comments or questions on any of these items?
I'd just like to recognize on the personnel agenda the retirement of Marcia Maxon, business teacher, effective August 31st, 2025. Marcia's done an outstanding job for our district, and she's going to be sorely missed. Maybe she'll come back. You never know.
Yeah.
But retirement.
Could happen. Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you, folks. Item 7A is campus news, another fun thing to watch.
Good evening. My name's Rob DeRose, the principal of the Early Childhood School.
This month, our school community came together for a joyful and meaningful Kindness Celebration Week. Throughout the week, students and teachers contributed to a growing paper kindness chain, with each link representing an act or message of kindness. The week concluded with a heartwarming school-wide assembly where students, faculty, and staff sang our various ECS school songs that were written and conducted by Naomi Foley, one of our general music teachers, and then took part in a chain linking ceremony combining each classroom's chain into one large unified kindness chain. This chain will be proudly displayed in our main hallway as a beautiful reminder that kindness connects us all, a message that we hope continues to resonate with students when they return from break, finish their school year, and beyond. In addition, to focus on social emotional learning, I'm excited to highlight a recent professional, on academic professional development, I'm excited to highlight a recent professional learning opportunity that many of our ECS teachers took part in, building thinking classrooms. This math-focused professional development, led by our Director of Math and Science, Carrie Goodell, introduced strategies aimed at deepening student thinking and engagement, collaboration, and problem-solving skills. Teachers returned inspired and energized, eager to implement these practices that support all of these important critical thinking and complex math skills in our youngest learners. To see that impact after a brief professional development says a lot about Carrie's work, but also the commitment to be always learning and to be at the top of their professional game from our teachers. We're also looking forward to an upcoming kindergarten and multi-age information night on Tuesday, April 23rd, which actually I believe is a Wednesday. On April 23rd, this event offers parents and caregivers an opportunity to learn more about the kindergarten year and the structure and philosophy of our VCSD multi-age program. This presentation will be recorded and made available on our school website following the event. As a reminder, families with a child who will be 5 on or before December 1st are encouraged to register their child for kindergarten by visiting our district website. A big thank you to our PTSA for a really fun-filled bingo night for our families recently. So many smiles, good times, and so many prizes given out. Everyone at the ECS Family Bingo Night has a lucky card. Events like this continue to build strong community connections and bring joy to our students and their families. Lastly, I want to mention that this is Assistant Principal Appreciation Week. Their incredible impact, they're valued, they're appreciated, they're extremely hardworking. As a former AP, I know how challenging that job can be, and at many times it can feel thankless, but I recognize and appreciate Laura and all the assistant principals here at Victor for the work they do each day. They're so close and connected to our students, our families, and our teachers, and they really help make our building run as smoothly as it does on a day-to-day basis. We're really proud of the work that we've been doing here at the ECS and look forward to an excellent end to the school year coming up in May and in June. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Heidi Robb, the principal at the primary school, and as Rob said, it's National Assistant Principals Week, and so I wanted to take a moment to recognize not only all of our assistant principals, but especially Mrs. Amanda Byrne for her outstanding leadership at the primary school. We are so fortunate to have her on our team. Currently, she, among many other things, is working on our master schedule for next year and is also working to start that placement process begin. On the placement committee, she makes sure that all staff voices are heard, and she's using that input to make thoughtful improvements to our schedule. Also with placement, creating those balanced classrooms to make sure we're setting both our students and staff up for success. Tomorrow at the primary school, we are very excited to have our first ever Day of Caring. The intention of this day is for our school community to come together to make a positive impact. Each class has signed up to do a community service project. Some of our classes will be showing care for our school by cleaning up the courtyard, planting bulbs, cleaning garbage around our campus, and organizing and cleaning up our lost and found. Other classes might be showing care for others by making cards for the Serenity House and Addison of Fairways Assisted Living. Home Depot donated leaf bags and gardening gloves and mulch and many other things. So some of our classes will be doing thank you notes to Home Depot. So regardless of the project our students signed up for, we're really excited for them to have that positive feeling for helping someone else or something else to make our greater community better. So if you're around campus, you might see VPS students wearing our school shirts, helping out our campus. We know this event will really show our community how at VPS we care for ourselves, others, and our school.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Morrow, and I'm the principal of the intermediate school. Pleased to provide you tonight with some updates at the intermediate school that have been going on during the past month. This month, our character trait that we've been focusing on with students is responsibility. Students have been exploring what responsibility looks like in various aspects of their lives, whether it's in school, at home, or within the community. This is a really important value, and we've seen great discussions and reflections from our students as they build this essential trait. At last week's assemblies, we also focused on digital responsibility. We were fortunate to have one of our security officers, Mike Santana, speak to our students about the safe and responsible use of social media and other digital platforms. His message was timely and relevant as we continue to emphasize responsible behavior both online and offline. In terms of field trips, our fourth grade classes have been visiting the Susan B. Anthony House. This experience has been an eye-opening opportunity for our students to learn about the history of women's suffrage, and they have been very engaged in learning about this important chapter in American history in the classroom as well. We've also had some exciting March Madness challenges taking place in the building. The March Madness Book Challenge and the March Madness Music Challenge have been a lot of fun as students voted on their favorite books and songs. It's been a wonderful way to get students involved in celebrating their interests while fostering a sense of school spirit at the same time. Lastly, we want to thank our transportation department for their support of our March Madness Bus Challenge. This friendly competition encouraged students to focus on and follow the expectations for behavior while riding the bus. We appreciate the strong communication and teamwork from transportation, and the students have responded very positively. Thank you for your continued support as we work to make the intermediate school a place where students not only learn academically, but grow as responsible and respectful individuals as well. And I also want to give a shout out to all of the assistant principals this week, especially at the intermediate school, Natalie Sonneville, and our interim assistant principal, Mark Nelson, who work very hard. They make wonderful connections with our students each and every day and are a vital part of our school community.
That's great. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Brian Gee, the principal of the junior high school. So a couple things that we have actually kind of on the horizon that I wanted to talk about tonight. First off, we have our Herb Smith visiting performer coming up shortly. He's part of our Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra group, very well known in a jazz community around Rochester and elsewhere. Our students are going to have opportunity to do workshops with him, and then he comes back and does a performance with some of our students, and that's coming up on April 30th. So we're really excited about that. Tomorrow is our Building Council Career Day event. So we have about 35 members of the local community in the surrounding greater Rochester area coming to present to our kids in 16 different job cluster categories. A wide range of people are coming. The kids are very, very excited. We did all of our signups this week. So I want to thank the folks on our Building Council and really a strong presence from our parent community and our local community for supporting that effort. Very excited about that. Our student council, in an effort to reach one of our student goals of connecting kids with their team and with their teachers, is organizing a Mix It Up Day, where students selected a variety of different activities that they like to do without knowing what their friends signed up for in advance, with no opportunities to change their selection. So they're going to sort of end up in a space with other kids who come together because they simply like the same things, cross-teamed, cross-grade levels based on interest. And our staff has really rallied to help support that for kids. That'll also be coming up the week we get back from April break. Last week, our student council, PTSA, ran our book fair, Books with Breakfast. Absolutely wonderful event. Again, kids can come in, they can pick up a book for free or a couple books for free. High interest reading, promote literacy, and our kids really, really love that. And then lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Laura Westerman, our assistant principal. She's fantastic, strong believer, and you got to find people who complement you in ways that you are not to build a team. And she does all the things really, really well that wouldn't come natural to me, just click for her. And so I just want to make sure I thank her for that publicly. Have a great evening.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Sessler, principal of Victor Senior High School. I have some individuals who I want to recognize this month. I want to start by recognizing a senior. Last year at this time, I stood up and I talked about a senior, Kevin Chen, who was awarded a National Merit Scholarship. And it was the first time in many, many years that a Victor Senior was awarded one. Second year in a row that we have somebody. Arian Moore, we found out, Tim and I, when we were on the senior trip, he was awarded a National Merit Scholarship. There are about 7,500 of them available to high school seniors. It's a very competitive process that they have to go through in order to qualify and be awarded one. And it's based on, eligibility is based initially on PSAT scores, and then there's a rigorous application process you have to go through and a vetting process. Just to put it into context, there are approximately 3.9 million students who graduate every year from United States high schools, which means that Arian is in the top 0.19% of all high school seniors. So this is a tremendous honor, not only for him, but for our school district as well. So I just wanted to start by congratulating him publicly. The second person who I want to mention tonight is Andy Redout, who is a high school art teacher. I ran off a copy of, this is a publication called The Life in the Finger Lakes. You might remember a year ago, Andy was the illustrator for a children's book, Jenny Sees the Eclipse, which was a year ago this week. And he is now the feature article in this publication. The article discusses his background as an art major in college with the goal of being an art teacher, but a college professor encouraged him to not pursue teaching and instead to chase the big money in the graphic design world. So he did that for a number of years, and he never liked it. It was a grueling schedule, 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. He did commercials, ads, billboards for national and international companies, but he never fell in love with the work. So he followed his heart, and he made an eventual transition back into education, which is what he always wanted to do. The article does a nice job of explaining how Andy brings art to life for his students through the trips that he does in New York City, the trips he does overseas. He's very connected to the local art scene and does a lot of urban sketching and brings his students sometimes on Saturdays to various areas around Rochester. So that article is there. It's a nice read from whenever you have a few minutes to learn a little bit more about Andy and his background. He's a great guy. Also want to highlight senior Jace Carey. Jace is graduating this year, and he was interviewed by Channel 8 a couple days ago because he's already a pilot. He can fly airplanes, just to clarify. And he got into this when he was fairly young. In fact, he had his pilot's license, I think, before he had his actual driver's license. And Channel 8 came in a couple days ago to do a background story on how he became interested in flying and his career aspirations. And it's actually airing tonight. The link is already on their website, but it was a really nice expose on Jace. And he is going to be attending the University of North Dakota, which I never knew. It has one of the best flying programs in the country. Who would have thought? So that's where he's intending on going in the fall. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted Jace. And I also want to echo our assistant principals at the high school, Keith Pedzik and Michelle Maloney, who's our interim. Fantastic job that they do with our students and with our structures. And a special thanks to Jen Grimes. Tomorrow is Jen Grimes' last day here in the district. She is transitioning over to be the principal at Churchville Chi-Li High School. So we want to wish her well. We're very excited for her and the next step in her professional journey. We're going to miss her deeply. We're going to celebrate her tomorrow. And we are welcoming Kate Pyle, who is our new assistant principal, who's her last day tomorrow at her old district in Florida. That's tomorrow, and then she's coming up next week, and we're going to start to put our team back together. So we want to wish Jen well and all the assistant principals. So thank you.
Wow, some great news tonight. So there you have it, the April Showers episode of Campus News. Stay tuned for the May Flowers episode. 7B, Management Plan Update, Elementary Goals. Karen Finter, Rob DeRose, Heidi Robb, Jim Morrow.
It's all here. All right, and Laura Reynolds, too, from the ECS will be joining us. So good evening, everybody. I am here tonight. I'm joined by my elementary building leaders to continue sharing our data-driven decision-making journey this year. You'll hear and see how, for instance, the intermediate school is using data to inform building-wide goals and themes around culture, really looking and digging into how we're building SEL skill development, ways to keep a pulse on staff in terms of building culture, and really helping to create a cohesive system. You'll hear how ECS is using data to inform learning and instruction goals aligned to our management plan, really to dive into instructional practices that build literacy, early literacy, and early numeracy skills, as well as how primary and intermediate teachers are working together to pilot resources through a thoughtful process in order to really support literacy achievement at the elementary level. And then finally, you'll hear about how primary is using Tier 1 social emotional skill development to sharpen students' skills and really help to create a strong system of support so that all students are ready to learn. We'll share some next steps and phases of this work with you at the end as well. So as you know, every summer has been our practice to really dig into sets of information and sets of data to help drive building goal setting, and that work feeds to PLCs and to teachers throughout the year. And so much like the secondary presentation last month, you'll see some of the metrics that were used to set goals. You'll hear how that, coupled with the priorities laid out in the management plan, really help to craft the building goals and to lay the foundation of the work, the great work that's happening in the buildings. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jim Morrow, who's going to share a bit about the goals around culture at the intermediate school and the great work that's happening there.
Thanks, Karen. So I'm going to highlight some of the things that we've been doing at the intermediate school centered around one of the pillars of our management plan. You can see up here culture, where really we're focusing and highlighting creating that welcoming, safe space where all members feel that sense of belonging and wellness is at a forefront. So our goal, one of the building goals that were centered around this pillar, is to strengthen the sense of belonging amongst both staff and students. And the way that we're measuring that goal is we've been able to take some data that we've been able to get from students in this area and do a social emotional learning data dive. And we've also been able to have some consistent surveys amongst our staff as well that really gives us a better pulse on their sense of belonging and connection in the building. So one way that we measure that students' sense of belonging and other critical factors related to their social emotional well-being is through an SEL survey that we give students in the fall. And here you can see the data from that survey, and the data really allows us to see not only building-wide what those areas of strength are in some of these areas, but also what our areas of opportunities for growth look like as well. And we can also drill down this data based on this survey to get a better sense on an individual student basis as well, which allows us to really get at some really great problem-solving opportunities to put some good interventions for students that I'm going to highlight here in a second. So this is just a snapshot of what we do when we do that SEL data dive for our students. So we're able to really take that survey data amongst some other data as well and really put it together in a comprehensive way so we can really identify some of the different needs that our students may have and also some strengths that students may have too. So some of the data points that we really look at when we do this data dive for students is we really look at attendance, the data that I just showed from the SEL survey, as well as some of the different behavioral data that we collect as well. And what we do is we create different thresholds looking at that data that we then kind of earmark as either like red or yellow to help us categorize and identify the different needs of students. This really allows our MTSS problem-solving teams at the building level to identify the students that are in need and really create some really unique and tailored intervention plans that will really help students in some of those areas where they might have that area for growth to help them be more successful. Some of the action steps that have come from looking at this data is we've really been able to identify that we've had a focus in the building on building community and relationships. We've been able to really tailor some of the professional development that we've done with staff in relation to this as well. We've done a lot of work with restorative practices with our staff this year as well, which has allowed them to have some really good conversations with students and supporting them with some of these social emotional learning needs. As well as we've incorporated some of these needs and messaging in our morning show, our monthly character traits, and grade level assemblies. We also have opportunities where our PPS staff has been pushing in monthly to deliver some social emotional learning lessons to students as well. And we've been able to use this data to really get at what those areas of need are and what those focuses should be when we're getting into the classrooms and working with our students. Lastly, the other part of our goal around culture was focused on that staff connection and belonging as well. So what we've been doing since October is we've been regularly collecting data and giving staff a survey on their sense of belonging and connection in the building as well. And one of the things that we've seen from this data is it was a 5-point linear scale that they responded to, 5 being the highest sense of belonging and connection. And we've really seen quite a big increase in the percentages in areas 3, 4, and 5 from staff from October to this recent data that we're looking at here from March. So again, 5 being the highest, these were the latest percentages of that data from our March belonging survey. And one of the things I really like about this is it's really allowed us to look at, as a leadership team, we sit down and we look and identify some of the staff members that maybe had rated themselves at a level 1 or a 2, and be able to individually check in with those people and get a sense of what they may need to feel that connection and sense of belonging and be able to respond to those individual people as well. And it also has allowed us to really plan and implement proactively some different ways to connect staff, such as the structure of our meetings, activities, and some of the events that groups like our Sunshine Sunshine Committee at the building does as well, to make sure that we're getting as many people to that level 3, 4, and 5 as possible in the building. Next, I want to turn it back over to Karen Finter to introduce learning and instruction.
Okay, so as you know, all buildings have goals in each of these 3 areas. So we're just highlighting some snippets tonight. And one of the highlights really cuts across multiple buildings. So how are we using data to drive decisions around curriculum and instruction to support that good instruction in the classroom? And so this is very exciting work. As our new Director of Humanities came on board in late August, we were able to really dig into a variety of information sets. We looked at the work that was done over the summer to write our own locally developed curriculum in a variety of grade levels. We looked at our assessment results. We looked at feedback from our faculty. We looked at feedback from the curriculum writing teams themselves, from the coaches, and from the building. And as we sifted and sorted through all of that information, all of those sources really kind of echoed the same thing. The work that was happening to develop local curriculum was good work, but the pace of writing, the implementation dynamics, the depth and breadth of vertical alignment to really put together a cohesive program, we just would run out of time, effort, energy, and frankly, dollars in order for that to happen. And we know, based on our results, we need more. And so, together with the coaches, building leaders, lead teachers, grade level teams, Kira worked to identify some criteria for resources. We knew that building knowledge was a primary driver, and wanted to ensure that any resource that we looked at centered around knowledge building. It had to have strong writing components, vocabulary components. It had to build on the early literacy work happening in grades K-2. It had to align with what we know to be best practice in literacy instruction. And so we combed through a variety of resources to determine the what, right? So we looked at Ed Reports, What Works Clearinghouse, talked to local districts through the BOCES, even consulted in research-based publications like the Reading League to determine what resources would fit the criteria that we had established. And we really narrowed it down to 2. One is called Core Knowledge Language Arts from Amplify, CKLA from Amplify. The other is called Arts and Letters from the resource Great Minds. And from that identification, we worked to put together a pilot plan that involves 26 teachers across grades 3 through 6. The pilot includes our integrated co-taught classrooms, classrooms that contain our L students, consultant teacher classrooms, and even standalone sections. There's been ongoing training, coaching, support provided to teachers throughout the pilot process, which began in January, and it'll be wrapping up by mid-May. Just last night, teachers got together to provide a mid-pilot check-in and feedback, starting to go through some of the evaluative questions around the resources that they're looking at. Their conversations, the dialogue was so deep, so strongly grounded in what we know to be good instruction, and even looking at student work to determine what are we seeing, what are some of the potential gains that we might see. Comments like, students love the writing that happens every day. They're never wondering what to write about. They're able to take what they're doing and extend their learning through their writing even further. That alone, I think, speaks volumes. The final evaluation includes a program-agnostic criteria, a rubric, modeled after some great resources, frankly, out of New York State as a review guide, as well as a review of that student work and learning. The spring grade level meetings will also be used to review the findings with the teams, get additional feedback from a variety of stakeholders to inform final decisions. So my goal is by June to bring to Curriculum Council and ultimately to the board a recommendation for final decisions for next year. We know this work is critically important, but it helps to really elevate those building goals around learning and instruction for literacy. In addition, Rob and Laura are going to share a bit about how PLCs in their building are working to support literacy instruction. And so you see some charts up on the screen. I just want to give a little overview. As you know, we provide benchmark assessments to our students 3 times a year, K-8, in both reading and mathematics. So the first chart you see is Ames Web, growth from fall to winter. And green, Jim talked a little bit about green, yellow, and red. So green is average and above. Yellow is, we gotta watch, right? Could teeter on the edge of proficiency, and red is well below proficiency. And our goal through the year is to really decrease the amount of students that fall into that red category. And so looking specifically at an assessment called the ORF, the Oral Reading Fluency Assessment, winter is typically the first administration for first grade. So the Ames Web fall graph is based on other subtests outside of the ORF. The appropriate range is generally considered to be around 50 to 60 words per minute at first grade. And this, we know, fluent readers continue to read. And as fluent readers, they can better comprehend what they read. So we know that that process predicts future reading success. And I just put on the slide, just for comparison's sake, grade 2. So you can see the growth from the fall to the winter in grade 2. The challenge is really accelerating that growth in first grade so that at that first administration of the ORF, we're seeing that foundational skill of reading fluency starting to take place. So Rob is going to share some information, as well as Laura, on early numeracy around how the PLCs at the ECS are really embracing looking at this type of data and operationalizing it with their students. Rob?
All right, thank you. I'm excited to talk about the work that we've been doing at the ECS because it exemplifies the work that's taking place throughout the district. As we started the year and we talked about setting goals for our building and setting goals for the PLC, we asked that everyone set a quantifiable, measurable goal for every single PLC. And as we launched this year, Laura and I discussed how can we use an existing system and structure to help work alongside our teachers to achieve these goals. And we used the PLC, which required some shifts. The PLCs were doing great work prior to this year, but what we noticed as we observed our school and supported it and led it was the PLCs were working often in isolation, and teachers would comment that our school felt large. So to decrease the feel of the school, what we've developed this year is PLC structures that collaborate weekly with AIS providers and classroom teachers, not only to develop a close personal relationship and professional relationship, but also to increase the continuity of services, interventions, and supports, also to provide coaching opportunities between the AIS teachers and classroom teachers. We also use our PLCs to review data, to drive instructional decisions, and to monitor student progress. One of the goals that is an example for the work that's taking place in the PLCs, I have the privilege of facilitating our ELA PLCs, and Laura does the same for the math. But many of our first grade PLCs are focusing on increasing students' oral reading fluency as measured through Ames Web. And what we've identified is that the oral reading fluency is a key priority standard for students and for future success. That's when they can apply the skills that they've been taught so diligently here at the ECS and then use it to read to learn, which is an important skill and next step for all young learners and young readers. So in order to do that, in order to get this work done, our PLCs have been really focusing on improving and enhancing the work that takes place during WIN, which stands for What I Need Time. Ensuring that students are practicing repeated reading and other fluency strategies and skills at home, and to provide students with opportunities to receive interventions as a pull-aside or a brief, quick intervention that can be implemented by not just an AIS reading teacher, but by a classroom teacher, an aide, and even a volunteer. Progress monitoring of data is collected, students are provided with specific feedback, and they are working toward a common goal of improving their oral reading fluency. I have some examples of artifacts from some of the work that our PLCs are doing within the building. On the left, you'll see an example of a reading fluency challenge. This is, on the left, you see of that chart, some passages that the students will read on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as they practice. They receive stickers. They're also timed on Monday as a cold read. How long did it take the child to read through the passage? And then again on Friday. On the right-hand side is a list of strategies and interventions and techniques that can support all students' development of fluency that has been provided to teachers and reviewed within our PLC structures. And then this set of artifacts is something that is a little bit more authentic, so you can see what it looks like as it's used. What I love about the chart on the left is that if you look at the names that are written and signed, it changes, because this is an intervention that doesn't need to be done by a specific person outside the classroom. This is a strategy that can be supported by anyone that supports the class. You'll see on the left the time it took the child to read on Monday, and then on the right, the time it took the child to read it on Friday. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see one of the example passages, some underlined letters for the student to identify. That was some specific feedback for this child. Just remembering that when you get to that letter, it says a different sound than maybe they would expect. So some example of some specific feedback that the teachers and aide and AIS professional are providing the kiddo. Then we want to make sure we're measuring the progress using AimsWeb as our platform. So our AIS teachers right now are probably the most fluent with this system, so they're entering this data for the teachers, but we're hoping that we can continue to generalize this skill so more and more people can implement this data and monitor student progress. But you'll see that the ROI, which stands for rate of improvement, the rate of improvement goal is set by AimsWeb that ensures that children's progress exceeds the average rate, so their growth rate is going to be closing any sort of gap. And then on the right-hand side is their trend rate of improvement. So really exciting data, and I didn't just cherry pick the best ones, but the teachers in our PLCs are sharing some exciting feedback that all students are showing improved rate of improvement trends beyond what is the set goal, and that time and time again students are closing that gap that we want to see shrink to nothing and then exceed into that above average range. So really exciting work taking place in our ECS ELA PLCs. And that is the same for my colleague behind me, who will talk to you about the work she's supporting with math.
All right, thank you, Rob. So I am going to build on what Rob has already shared about our PLC work and going to walk us through some of the insights that our math PLCs have gained from our initial data dive in the fall. These findings gave us a clearer picture of where our students are and then allowed our teachers to use that backwards design model with that end goal in mind to know where they wanted to get our students to. So through our AimsWeb data and our curriculum-based assessments, our first grade PLCs observed a need for increasing students' ability to fluently add and subtract within 10. And then also supporting students in making sense of math problems, identifying patterns, and solving word problems or equations with unknown parts. So like 5 plus unknown equals 7. The image you see up there is a snapshot from some of our eDoctrina data from first grade. That is from units 2 and 3, and you can see the standards right up there, standard 10A5 and 10A6 aligned to the fluency standard, and about 75% of our students were falling in that average range on those fall assessments. And then for standard 10A8, which is that solving the word problems and the unknown part, our students were falling in about the 62% were falling about in the average range. So we knew that was an area of focus for us. So some of the next steps for our PLCs is we were able to collaborate and share math fact fluency strategies, as well as enhancing students' ability to make sense of problems. We know with fluency, it's more than just being able to quickly add and subtract, but it's also being able to visualize what an equation looks like, being able to find patterns within the equation, and then also for the word problems, we've been doing a lot of work on numberless word problems at first to really see if the students are understanding what the problem is asking and then giving them opportunities to justify their thinking. As Rob had mentioned in his campus news, we also have a cohort of teachers attending the Building Thinking Classrooms PD that's been led by Carrie Goodell, and they have found that to be very impactful. They found ways to incorporate it right into their math investigations units as well. After each unit, we've been able to monitor data using that eDoctrina to continue to see how we're doing and where we need to go next. And then not only are we doing this work with our first grade PLCs, but then also bringing it into kindergarten as well to really understand and clarify those progression of standards. So we know in kindergarten at the end of the year, our students need to add and subtract fluently within 5. So we know what that progression looks like going into first grade. So we were able to bring some of that AIMSweb data right into our kindergarten PLCs to start to build that work and that foundation within kindergarten as well. For kindergarten, at this time, prior to this work, we did not have unit assessments for math paired to our investigations. So we were able to work with a cohort of teachers and partner again with Carrie Goodell to create a common math assessment. We've been doing it based on trimesters and making sure it's aligned to the New York State standards, our progress reports, as well as our math investigations units. And we just had our first go around of the assessment in March and had great feedback from our kindergarten teachers and was able to get the data right into eDoctrina and already start using that in our kindergarten PLCs to start to see where we can go next. And then we met this past Monday to start working on trimester 3, the unit assessment. So just to highlight some of the data points, if you remember the 2 slides ago what I just showed, we'll see some growth that our PLCs are already noticing. So after taking the winter benchmark for AIMSweb, we noticed a 14% decrease in the number of students falling in the well below average range for math fact fluency, and a 5% increase in the number of students falling in the average range. For the eDoctrina data, this one is from Unit 5, so those other ones were Units 2 and 3. We saw an increase from 75% of students falling in the average range for the fluency standard to 84% of students in the average range. And then for that standard 1088, which again was solving word problems and that unknown equation, we saw an increase from the 62% of students falling in the average range to 87%. So it's been a lot of great celebrations to bring that to our first grade PLCs and kindergarten as well. So we've been excited to see what they've been able to accomplish and how that's impact our student learning. And I'll turn it over to Heidi Robb.
Thank you. I am going to highlight our last pillar, which is student supports and opportunities. And while we're all doing wonderful things in our building, I'm going to focus on the primary school and what we're doing in this area toward our building goals. So in the past years, our data has shown us that more than 20% of our students are requiring Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports for behavior and social emotional learning. So this year, our building goals really focused on how can we support students more at that Tier 1 level. So I'm going to highlight a few things that we've done. This year, we have a PPS person, which is psychologist, counselor, or social worker. Each classroom has a point person, and they meet once a month just to kind of go through the students to see if there's anyone on the radar, and then we can bring them to a team to focus on if anything's going on with particular students. We also, similar to what Jim shared, are using criteria to make those determinations to who's going to get some Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. Our faculty meetings have really focused on strategies we can use across the building, and those are trauma-informed practices. And lucky for us, Leah Daniels-Farron has supported some of that work in our building at those faculty meetings. We've been able to partner with her. In addition, we have improved our homeschool communication with our families around our expectations and our social emotional learning. You should have a folder at your place, and those are just some examples of the newsletters we're sending home. That's a goal of our building council this year. They're helping to create those. So we actually were just working on one this morning. And then in addition, we have weekly counseling lessons. I do have an example of one, but I'm going to skip that video and you can watch it at your leisure. I think you have these slides. It's very, very cute. But one of our counselors, Kara Kopinski, is working with students on the I statement. So that's saying, I feel when something happens because, and I would like to. And when Mrs. Byrne and I are reflecting on students after maybe there was an unexpected behavior, we're hearing this in our office, which is really exciting. So the short little clip that you're welcome to watch at your own leisure, it's about 1.5 minutes, and it's Kara introducing this, and it's the students saying if it's an owl response, a turtle response, or a wolf response. And so the kids, either act like an owl, a turtle, or a wolf, depending on what she says. So go ahead and watch that when you do have a chance. But I'm going to skip through that for right now, just knowing we're on limited time. But what I wanted to share with you is just some data that we have through March. One of the ways we collect data just to see if some of these interventions and supports at the Tier 1 level are working is our support calls. So how many calls a day we're getting to support students with behavior or some of that social emotional support. And if you just take a look at that last column, I find that to be the most beneficial to take a peek at. There's different numbers of days per year when we're comparing, but if you look at the difference, I'm comparing that to last year. In all but 1 month, we've had a pretty significant decrease in the support calls that we're getting. So we're really feeling great about some of the Tier 1 instruction that we're adding for students. I'm going to turn things back over to Karen.
So we would just like to say a lot of this great work is continuing. We'll wrap at the end of the year and come back with elements from tonight's presentation in the data book so that you can kind of see how the year ended, and would like to sincerely thank you for your time tonight. It's hard to nail down the great things that are happening across 3 very vibrant buildings, so thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
I did have one. First off, thank you. It was amazing. I did have one question, and Jim, I know you were doing the part of the presentation, but I don't know if it's a question for you or for Karen. On the slide where it was with the colleagues of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I appreciate the focal points on 1 and 2, and the larger groupings of 4 and 5, that center group of 3, is that an opportunity for us as a district to sit there and say, if we can move that group of 3 with supports to the 4, ultimately the 5, and perhaps help pull the 1s and 2s along just to create a better culture for the adults in here? Is there, I guess, what would be the action items, and I don't know if that can be answered now, that we as a district would look like, and what supports perhaps from the Board of Education that everybody would have to, that you would need from us for boots on the ground and for bringing that culture even further along?
Yeah, so I think that's a great point. I think the first step in collecting that data is to really get a pulse on, where we are at as a building. And I think knowing that there is that percentage that are at that level 3, I think I totally agree with you. That's a great opportunity to think about, what can we do to get them up to that level 4 and level 5? What things can we think about building wide and even district wide that we can do? So, certainly that's something that, we'll be thinking about and considering, but I think that's a great point that you're making.
Okay, thank you. And that would just say to Dr. Terranova, if there's a way maybe in future conversations to kind of track that to see how we can best support the colleagues that we have in our district. So, thank you.
Okay, other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, item 7C is to adopt the 2025-2026 budget. We'll first listen to the review, have an opportunity to have questions, and then we will do the resolution with a roll call vote.
Yeah. I want to, first of all, thank the Board of Education for their advocacy the past several months, actually past several years, but specific to this budget, the past several months to advocate with legislators and state representatives to get the adequate state aid, I say adequate, that we actually need in Victor Central School District. We're not sure what that will be yet because the state budget has not been approved by the governor. and signed yet, but I believe that because of your advocacy, we are going to put a dent into our budget challenges. Excuse me, thanks to Christine Griffin and Dorothy D'Angelo and the entire leadership team for their work on creating this budget that's going to be presented to you, an overview of which will be presented to you now. They figured out a way in a very tight financial time to preserve all of our programming and our staffing, not increase staffing for next year, but also keep class sizes the same as this school year, which is very important, based upon the stable student enrollment that we have. And I appreciate Mr. Martz, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I appreciate your advocacy and your just your engagement in the budget process. And hopefully I'm going to reach out to you next week or the week after when we get back from break, and I'd love to have a conversation about it. But I do appreciate that community advocacy and community engagement because it is very important. So this was not an easy budget process, but very much appreciative of the work that everybody's done, especially the board in terms of the advocacy. So I'll turn it over to Christine.
Thank you, Dr. Terranova. Hi, I'm Christine Griffin, Assistant Superintendent for Business. I'm going to present to you tonight the details behind our 25-26 budget. Tonight we're going to cover the goals of our budget. And a reminder of those, our final revenue and expenditure recommendations, and our budget calendar review. As we state at every budget meeting, we talk about what our goals are. Our goals are to enhance a comprehensive education that the Victor Central School community expects, improve the alignment of resources towards the district's strategic plan, maintain the stabilization of our reserves, maximize the use of every dollar spent, maximize the ability to generate aid for future years, and of course, transparency. We're going to talk about revenues and expenses. We're going to start with revenues. As Dr. Terranova mentioned, per the New York State Constitution, the New York State budget is to be adopted by April 1st. Today is April 10th, and today they passed their fourth budget extender through April 15th. So we don't expect one anytime soon. For reference, in prior years, last year the budget was approved at the state level on April 20th. Prior year to that, in 2023, it was done in May. So we don't have that information tonight, so tonight we're asking you to approve a budget prior to having those final numbers. Absent a final budget from New York State, we're presenting to you our two projected scenarios, what we expect from state aid. We presented this last month. There is really no update from that. We did highlight that we do feel that there might be an increase in our foundation aid and our BOCES aid based on how that BOCES aid is calculated and projected at the state level at this time of the year. We do feel that even though we project a $700,000 increase from what we saw in January to what we see, what we're thinking we're going to get, will probably fall somewhere in between those two numbers. When you combine our state aid with our local revenues and federal sources, we are showing two different scenarios. One where we have a revenue of $105,413,095, and projection number two is $106,113,095. And again, like I said, we think we're going to fall somewhere in between on that. The $60,523,560 $16 tax levy is tax cap compliant. It's a 3.04% increase from the prior year. Taking a look at our expenditures, since the last meeting, Dorothy and I dove into some details pretty extensively in the lines on the revenues and the expense sides. We did our Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES submission online for our BOCES services that request was finalized, and, in doing so, we saw some things I want to note. So highlighted on here is that BOCES aid, or BOCES expenses, that really kind of drove our bottom line decision to increase the total expenditures for next year by $800,000. One of the things that really drove that is over the years, we've increased our use of BOCES services, which is a wise investment. We get aid back on that the next year. It's also, when you purchase your software through BOCES, those contracts with the software companies are vetted, so we know that they're Ed Law 2D compliant. And again, like I said, we get aid on those purchases. So over the years, we've utilized their services more to try and increase that revenue. So, but we haven't been necessarily budgeting at 100% of that expenditures. We've been transferring money in from our contingency lines to increase that during the year. But what I'd like to do is align this line more with our actual expenditures, so it makes our BOCES aid every year a little more predictable. Oh, actually, one more thing on this slide. You'll see there's some reductions in the professional salaries and support salaries that really kind of absorbed some of the other changes as well. But the contractual line, that increase, I wanted to make note of that. We did have an increase in that because I did want to reflect the possibility of the utility expenses going up next year. So bottom line on our budgeted expenditures for next year is $109,771,405. With that is a $6.5 million increase from the prior year, 6.34%. So based on all the information and the work that we've done up to this date, we're recommending that proposing to the board that they adopt a budget tonight of $109,771,405. And just looking at it overall, budget to budget and levy to levy, our budget to budget's up to $6.5 million or 6.34%, and our levy to levy is up almost 1.8 million, but 1.78 by 3.04%.
I just want to add, so we've talked about the budget gap. Going into this through this process, somewhere between $3.5 to potentially even $4 million between our expenses and our revenue. Thanks to Christine's work, we have a much more accurate picture of our BOCES expenses. Because we don't know what our state aid is yet, no matter what, the tax levy is going to be the same increase. Taxes won't go up if we get less state aid than we anticipate. Taxes will stay the same. What will happen is we won't spend all of the $109 million. We'll spend less and create, because every year we try to put in a contingency of savings somewhere between 3 and 5% each year for emergencies and for our ability to put money in our reserves. We'll utilize the contingency from this school year, 24-25, to fill that gap between the revenue and expenses for next year, and hopefully have some money left over to put in reserves, but we may not. And then if we have to, we'll shrink the contingency next year from $4 to $5 million to $2 to $3 million, which would lower the total expenditures and not raise taxes anymore, but just lower the expenditures, lower our contingency, but get us at an equal budget for next year. I just want to make sure the board understands that strategy. And we won't know if we're going to have to lower our contingency for next year until the state aid actually gets official or becomes official through the state budget.
So the other item that you're going to see on the ballot this year is going to be the bus purchases that supports our vehicle replacement plan. And next steps, we're going to obviously continue to monitor the status of the New York State budget and see where that shakes out for us. We're going to finalize the amount of what Dr. Terranova just mentioned, the amount of 24-25 fund balance and the 25-26 contingency balance. We're going to balance those to get our revenue and expenditures in line. The Board of Ed candidates, the deadline to accept submission of petitions is Monday, April 21st at 4:30 p.m. And the remaining items on our budget calendar after that will be May 6th is our budget hearing and our Meet the Candidates night. Tuesday, May 13th is when voter registration occurs at district office. And Tuesday, May 20th is the budget vote in the Board of Education election. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, comments or questions, board members? Nothing?
I was just waiting to make sure there was nobody else going. Sorry.
Sorry, what?
No, I do. Just a few things. One, thank you, Dr. Turnova, for the explanation of regardless of what the aid comes in at from the state, that doesn't change the taxes for our community. I think that's an important thing to note, because that was one of my concerns, is if the state doesn't step up, which I'm not very confident that they're going to, what does that do to our community? So thank you for that reassurance. To this board and to the board members prior, I would just like to say thank you and applaud all the work that those folks have done. And I remember the conversations of whether or not we should be creating extra reserve accounts and taking a look at the management of what those funds were. And they, as you predicted, and the business office predicted, that has saved us literally some savings to go into the reserves, but also saved us when we've needed it. So I just want to say thank you for that. The tax cap compliant on the levy, so in no way would aid even affect us being tax cap compliant. We wouldn't be forced into a situation where we have to relook, because they keep extending their deadline, but I know we can't extend ours.
Correct. The swing between that 700, if we split it down the middle, I think you're only looking at a $350,000 swing. I think we are confident with this year's fund balance, allocating from this year and reducing potentially expenditures next year down from the 109, actually not actually spending that fully. That will be able to balance the budget. We would not have to change that. No reason to exceed the tax levy, the tax cap.
Okay. And then the last one, I know we've said it, but I think it's just important to put at every single meeting, we will not be reducing staff.
Correct. This is maintaining all programming and staffing.
Okay, thank you.
Current levels.
Any other comments?
Just one. Just for clarity, because it was, part of the discussion tonight. Can you just kind of tell for listeners, like how the BOCES services and like that, we need the services, we pay, but then we get aid back. So just kind of to explain for everyone how that works.
Correct. So we start in the springtime taking a look. We have to submit our request for services for aid for this 25-26 school year. Our aid that we get next year is actually based on this year's aid. So what we spend in the 24-25 school year is what drives the aid the very next year. So the issue with our aid, whether we think that it's going to come in higher, especially with the BOCES aid, is the timing of the projections that are received by the state. And when they issue their numbers in January, it's really based on information that they have through the fall data. So those numbers tend to be a little bit lower than what we actually will spend for the full fiscal year 24-25. So we do believe, that's one of the reasons we do believe the aid will be higher next year, is because it's not reflective of the full aid for the 24-25 school year.
Is there a percentile kind of level that we get the aid back at?
Yep. So our BOCES aid percentage is 65%. So everything we purchase through there, we get 65% back on that. In aid the following year. So it is a great revenue generating model for us to be shifting some of our purchases through that. So for example, instead of just buying a software or a Chromebook through our regular budget and not buying it through BOCES. If we can shift that to BOCES, we pay, in essence, 65% less on that. We get the aid the next year, but we pay full for it, and then we get the money back later.
Thank you. I just did a tour of BOCES on Monday, and it was like, there's so many cool things that they do. So I just wanted that clarification out there. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the question.
Anything else? I do have something from Elizabeth Mitchell. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here this evening due to illness. So I want to read this from her, and I'm sure we will all agree with it. While I regret missing this crucial vote to adopt the VCS 2025-2026 budget due to illness, I do want to share my support for this budget and speak of my appreciation for those involved in crafting it. I want to commend our business office, the rest of the district office team, and building leadership for crafting a budget that works to meet the needs of our students, staff, and programming while being fiscally responsible to district taxpayers. Additionally, I want to express my gratitude to the VTA leadership, Dr. Terranova, and my colleagues on the board for months of advocacy efforts with our legislative representatives and the governor's office. I support the adoption of the 2025-2026 budget and related propositions. That's by Elizabeth Mitchell. Okay, so what I will do next is read the resolution, then ask for a motion, and Kate will do a roll call vote. So the budget adoption resolution is resolved that upon recommendation of the superintendent, the proposed budget for the 2025-2026 school year be approved as submitted for a total of $109,771,405, subject to approval by the qualified voters of the district at the annual vote and election on May 20th, 2025. A motion, please.
Lisa.
Lisa, second. Carol.
Carol.
And District Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Yes, I'll call each of your names. If you accept the budget, please respond with yes. And if you do not, please respond with no. Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. DeLucia?
Yes.
Mrs. Kostecki?
Yes.
Mrs. Prescott?
Yes.
Dr. Parks?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Motion carried. Thank you, folks, everyone, for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, we are at 7D. Approve the following trip. Art Club to Paris, France, and London, England, from 2/13/26 to 2/22/26. Motion, please.
So moved.
Who said that?
Christopher.
Christopher. Second? Carol. Any comments about this trip other than wanting to go with them?
Right. You're the chaperone.
I love that it was featured in the article.
That's last year's trip.
A picture from last year's trip.
Yeah, nice. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? I'm sorry, was there a comment? No. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, item 7E is authorization of RIC 1 Risk Operations Center, ROC, to negotiate data privacy agreements on behalf of Victor Central School District. A motion, please.
So moved.
Lisa, second.
So moved.
You won. You saw information about this. Looks like something positive for the district. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 7F, policy review, second and final reading of the following policy: compulsory attendance ages, policy 5130. Motion, please. Adam, second.
Lisa?
Lisa? We all saw these a few times. Any comments or questions?
Just to thank you again to Dr. Terranova and Mr. Siesto for reviewing that policy and ensuring we're meeting all students where they are.
Great. Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. 7G, policy review, second and final reading of the following policy, student records, policy 5500. Motion, please. Anyone?
So moved.
Christopher, second. Adam. Comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Consider item H, 7H, consideration of Diligent Community Board Governance Platform. This is something Kate brought to us as a recommendation, and I'm going to hand it over to Kate to walk us through it for a minute or two. Thanks.
Yes, thanks for hearing about it. I did give you a one-pager, but just as an overview, this platform really think suit our needs well as your board and for the community. It's previously known as Board Docs, so some of you may be familiar with that platform, but Diligent Community is now the name for it. It helps organize our meeting agendas, minutes, policies. It makes it ADA compliant for us to be able to search those things on the community side, which is obviously where we're heading anyways, as opposed to our current PDF model of how we're uploading them. Training would be provided by Diligent if we were to move forward with it, and I'd be requesting a July 1 start. They would transfer all of our information for us. And it does sound like it would be a very minimal change for you as board members to access your materials, having a secure site. I think it would suit needs well. They told me 490 New York State schools are using it. Many of the district clerks that I've interviewed around us are using it as well for their school boards.
Okay. Do we know the cost involved?
The quote went through Angela Affronti's office. She said it reasonably fit into our software budget, and it is BOCES aidable as well.
Okay. Now, I didn't realize this was formerly Board Docs.
Yes.
Okay, I've used that on the BOCES board, and it works very well. It also involves online voting, so you actually have your tablet or whatever in front of you, and the votes are done, initiated by the clerk, and we do them online, and then reported back by the clerk what the results are. It's a pretty cool system. I used it, like I said, with BOCES when I was on their board, and hope to be back there again, and it works well. So Kate is recommending that we go in this direction, so wanted to hear from you folks if we want to give her the nod or ask her to step out the back. I don't know.
No, I actually think this is a great idea, and if that quote fits into the budget from Angela, that's even better. I also love that they'll transfer the documents we currently have, because I can imagine the time that you would have had to invest in that if they didn't. And the ADA compliance is so incredibly important.
It is important.
So I think this is a great idea to proceed with.
Any other comments?
Just a question. Is it like it's by a different company, Diligent, not BOCES? It's not
BOCES. Diligent bought Board Docs, which is what most folks seem to be using, but they're transferring it over to this Diligent name. So that's, it also ties in with Erie One in our policy management. So Erie One, when they update those policies for your review, once that's all transferred over with Maureen's help, it'll be very seamless within the system to send it for your approvals to keep up with our policy manual too. So BOCES works closely, but it's a separate program.
Okay, because like they just, BOCES had a lot of platforms and different things, but I didn't know if they supported this one or had something similar. But
I don't think they have their own.
They don't have their own. Okay.
No, but they work closely with it.
Yeah, and I did see at the board meeting they were doing the thing, which I kind of found was somewhat awkward, but anyways. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
I just look at it as to your points to summarize. It's ADA compliant, check. District office efficiency increases, check. It's within our spending and it's aidable, check, check.
Yeah.
It's responsible for the district to do it. So I would say yes.
Okay. All right.
Great, thank you.
Looks like it's a go. You got our nods. You heard the heads shaking. Okay. Item 8 is meeting reports. Monroe County School Board Association committee reports. Anyone?
Was that yesterday? It was yesterday. I attended the final information exchange meeting. I know a couple others on the board did as well on student representation on the school board, which, as everyone knows, the governor signed the bill back in September, and on July 1st, we need to start having a student representative. It was incredibly informative with a lot of different information on how we can go about choosing those students. My recommendation would be, because I think we all need to sit and sort of talk about it as our April workshop, we spent some time determining what our process will be to do that. Obviously, the recommendation was we should have a process in place July 1 as part of the law, but that didn't mean the student necessarily had to start right then and there, given it's summer and they may want a break too. But I think we should get moving on this as quickly as possible and start discussing it at our next workshop. Christopher, I know you were there, Dr. Terranova. Anything else to add?
I think that's a great recommendation to sit down in a workshop and talk about the process for doing this, how we want to choose our student representation on the board, and how many is the other question to consider. So it's a good recommendation. I support that.
And I will share the slide deck that was presented to us with the rest of the board tomorrow.
Yes, I think it's a great idea, and also I think we would turn to Dr. Terranova and Mr. Siesto and lean on them pretty much very heavily on student recommendations because we've got a lot of great students to pick from. And they know them the best.
So just to clarify, it looks like the board would like to do would you want to do the second meeting in April and a workshop about the process that we would end up using to select and what their role would be in terms of the kids on the board, students, sorry.
Yes, that would be the 24th, correct? So check your calendars. Hopefully everyone or most of us will be available.
And then I would recommend and actually request that once we determine what that process is going to be, that's something that we post out on our website so that the community has full view of how we end up proceeding.
Sure. Tim, would you recommend anyone else from your staff attend that workshop besides you?
I mean, I could, potentially Mr. Siesto.
Yeah.
It has to be a high school student, I believe.
It has to be a high school student, and I think
I could
it's really helpful
ask
if he was
Brian if
there.
he'd like to attend.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a plan. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Any standing committee updates? I'm sorry.
We had a meeting with the Visual and Performing Arts Hall of Fame. Just want to kind of put another shout out there if anybody wants to do any nominations. We have some, amazing talented alumni and teachers and community members. So on our website is the way to nominate. So please consider that. And we will recognize as soon as possible. We recognize the winner, the honorees in October, or in the fall. So you have a little bit of time, but not a lot. So get those nominations in.
Okay. Anything else? Then, item 9, upcoming events, special board meeting for the Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES administrative budget and annual election vote, Wednesday, April 23rd, time to be determined. So Kate has asked us for our calendars so that we can decide on a time. It has to be done on that date.
It does. It have to be done that Wednesday.
Do we want to consider doing the workshop on that Wednesday instead of the following day?
It's a possibility. It can be any time on Wednesday, the 23rd. It just has to be done, that vote has to be done that day. So we wouldn't be able to move that to Thursday, but we could move the workshop potentially.
Yeah.
If we could move the workshop, I can attend. That'd be great.
On
To
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Is Wednesday better for you than
Yes.
Thursday? Okay.
Yeah, well, let's do that then. You know, if you could send out a note to everyone, and it'd be a Wednesday evening, correct? Everyone?
Would that work for everyone to workshop Wednesday, April 23rd?
Yeah. Works for me.
Checking it now, okay.
I can make that work.
Okay, what time do we think? 6:30? Does that work?
Yeah.
Give you enough time to,
Not 18, I will not be able to make no matter what.
I'm sorry, what?
It's got to be 6.
No.
Oh.
30, yes.
What is
The hour, no.
18:30? Is that, I don't know what that means.
6:30.
-6.
Okay. I'm supposed to do this math in my head every time I talk to you about time? Okay, 6:30.
6:30 on Wednesday, April 23rd.
All right.
Wednesday.
I'm going to have to buy a watch.
That'll be on here.
That tells time.
Military watch. Yeah. Okay, we got that one. 9B Budget Forum, Meet the Candidate Night is Tuesday, May 6th at 7 in the Junior High, Senior High Performing Arts Center. The next regular board meeting will be Thursday, May 8th, 7:15, right here. And then the annual vote and Board of Education election, May 20th, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the Early Childhood School boardroom. I guarantee I will not vote at 6 a.m. All right, anything else for the good of the district? Seeing none, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Christopher, second.
Lisa?
Lisa, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions? Motion carried. We have had a meeting, folks. Thank you very much.